Hello everyone, and welcome to Hill Street. Today there will be two stories. The first will be, would it have been better if I had done nothing at all? The second will be, the Shovel Man. These stories may be true, or they may be fictional. That is for you to decide. If you end up enjoying these stories, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I need advice. Help. I don't know. I tried to do the right thing, and now I feel like I'm being punished for it. Please bear with me as I start from the beginning for the sake of my own sanity and context for you. I work at a distribution center of sorts. I don't want to give too much info out, as it's a very popular company, and I'm sure even the smallest clue would give it away. I worked production, and there I met a man who I will name John. John was a loss prevention officer for the company, but that was just a fancy way of saying security guard. Now John wasn't like the rest of the guards. John was a lot more passive, kind-hearted, and laid back, where the rest of the guards were in every way what you would think a stereotypical rent-a-cop would be. Unfortunately, this only served to paint a target on John's back. Employees would routinely take advantage of him. To try and make a considerably long story shorter, John was a lonely, gullible man. If he thought he could make a friend out of you, he'd break any rule you asked him to. Eventually, this caught up with him, and John almost lost his job. He stopped doing favors for people, and in turn, his friends no longer put up with him. Over the course of a couple months, I saw him deteriorate from his jovial self that I came to know into what can only be described as a husk of what he used to be. And this is where I made my mistake. I felt so sorry for the guy. I reached out to him. I tried to bring him into my circle. For a while, it was fine. John actually had a very good sense of humor. Once the man broke out of his shell, he was damn near the life of the party. The problem was, John just couldn't stop being John. If you needed a job done, he wanted to help. If you needed money, he'd find a way to give it to you. And try as you might, the man would never accept it back, even knowing fully well he couldn't afford to give it to you in the first place. It got so bad, his own wife would beg me to hold him back. Somehow, I had basically become this man's keeper, and eventually it got to be too much. And one black day, I blew up on him. I made the worst mistake of my life. I told him the truth. He was hurting himself and his family. There's a huge difference between generosity and stupidity. I told him no one wanted to be around him because he was a pathetic tool, and tools were made to be used and discarded. I told him that if he ever wanted to be treated like a man, he had to learn how to act like one, and that I was not able to do that for him. I told him to quit being a pussy and man up. The worst part is, no matter what I said to this man, he just took it. And once I was finished, he apologized and walked away. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. John never made it home that night. Out of respect for him and his family, all I'm going to say is John got a hold of a bottle and made a stupid choice that day. He may have made the choice, but it's all my fault. He is dead because of me. But that's not the scary part. I haven't had a good night's sleep in weeks. My friends and family tell me I'm crazy, but I can hear him at night. The soul-piercing sobs, the smell of alcohol every time I get behind the wheel, his voice whispering, "I'm sorry," every time I close my eyes. I've tried going to church. I've tried going to his grave, begging both God and him to give me peace. I'm losing my mind. Please, someone, have you experienced this? Do you know anyone who has? I'm sorry for hurting him. I'm sorry for driving him to the grave. It was an accident. I wish I had never reached out to him. This happened 3 years ago. I was 11 back then. I was babysitting my 7-year-old cousin because my parents and his went out to a bar. I made supper, and then we went to chill in my room to play on the PS4. We played for nearly an hour when we heard a loud noise in the backyard. We both looked at each other with a confused look. My house is in the middle of the woods, so we just told ourselves it was a deer who stepped on a branch, which cracked. We continued to play when we heard another loud sound. Approximately 10 minutes later, it was like metal hitting a rock. Shivers traveled down my spine while I looked out of the window. I tried to keep my calm. A tall silhouette walked across the yard. I tried to call my mom in panic. She didn't answer. I told my cousin to stay in my room while I silently went downstairs to lock the doors. I took the biggest kitchen knife I could find and went back upstairs. I tried to assure my cousin that everything was going to be all right. I held the knife tight in my hand, looking out the window. He was nowhere to be found. I was relieved, but at the same time, stressed, because I had no idea where he went. Then, we heard the front door turn. Every second passed, and every time, the door handle turned aggressively. But then we both burst into tears. Suddenly, my phone began to ring. It was my mom. I swiped and listened to her voice. "Open the door." I ran downstairs, opened the door, and jumped in her arms, crying my heart out. The next morning, I went to check in the backyard. 5 or 6 holes, and a shovel on the ground. Who was he? What did he want? Why did he dig so many holes? Still today, I ask myself so many questions.